Hi, you guys. I'm Phil Town. I'm from Rule 1 Investing, and I want to talk to you today about something pretty important. You know, we get a lot of questions around what should I do if I don't basically have any money to invest? What do I do if I only have $1,000?
Is it worth it to begin investing if all I have is $1,000? Should I wait until I have more money saved or just jump in?
Okay, so I think the answer is that you're missing a piece of information. It's not about jumping in with $1,000. It's not about saving more money so you have more money to jump in with later. It's about recognizing that nobody in your life has ever taught you how to invest well. There's been nobody in your life who's ever made a lot of money, probably. I mean, certainly in my case, I had no one in my life who could tell me how you go about actually investing money. And so I'm going to tell you guys something really important here, I think, that you need to know. That you should think seriously about joining an extended family of people who do know how to invest properly and who've been making billions of dollars for 85 years. We call this family the Rule 1 family or the Ruler family. Warren Buffett is the #1 uncle in the family. Uncle Warren has been trying to teach us proper investing now for about 50 years. And every single year, Uncle Warren goes out and writes a letter to us, all of the other rest of the people in the family, about the best way to invest. And there's 40 some years of these letters stacked up online. You can start your education right there with just reading what Uncle Warren had to say. Just go Google Warren Buffett annual letters, and there's a treasure trove of investing information there. Now, the other thing you can do is read some of the books these other uncles wrote, right? Uncle Manesh Prabrai Manesh is one of the best investors in the world. He's managing $1 billion, and he wrote a book called The Dondo Investor, which is how you start with a very small amount of money properly and grow it by great long-term investing strategies that the Patel family made famous. The Patel family started in America with almost no money, and today, 40 years later, they have 40% of the hotels in America that they own. So it's not about the money, it's about the knowledge. Another one I can suggest to you is Uncle Guy Spear wrote a great book called Education of a Value Investor that is phenomenal, and you need to read that. He's written an entire book to teach you how to properly invest, whether you're starting with $1,000 or $1 million. And I wrote a couple of books. Both of them are New York Times #1 bestsellers, Rule 1 and Payback Time. And I also am trying to show you what I've learned over these 30 years in this tradition of this family that we call the Ruler family. So before we start thinking about cranking it up with $1,000, the first thing we got to think about is, how do I get the knowledge I need to do it right?
Where should I invest my money to maximize my return? Are there any other places I should invest money besides stocks if I'm starting with a lower amount?
Well, I think the key thing to understand is that we make money on our investment capital if we're buying wonderful businesses and we buy them on sale. And we make the money when we're certain that we have what we think we have. Charlie Munger says that there's basically 4 things you've got to focus on. Number 1, be sure you're capable of understanding the business that you're getting into. Number 2, be sure that this business has this thing that we call a moat, that it has some intrinsic characteristic built into the business itself, like railroad tracks are part of a railroad, something deeply embedded in it that protects them from competition. Also, make sure that the management team are people who share your values, that they have integrity, that they're talented. And finally, you can't pay an infinite amount of money for something. You have to buy it on sale. We call that a margin of safety purchase price. So, how do you invest your money to maximize your return? Obviously, you buy $10 bills for $5, and you do it over and over and over again. We buy companies sometimes and we get them for, let's say the company is originally $45 and then something happened that we call an event that we can understand. We can buy that company in the market for $15. And a year later, it's back to 30 or 40 or 50. This is the best way. And I'm not saying these returns are normal, okay? Let's get our feet on the ground. A great rate of return would be 15% a year. So you have to start thinking, okay, I'm starting with a very little money. I'm making 15%. If I'm doing really good, I'm making 25%. If I'm just killing it, I might be making 40%. You think about it, Warren Buffett was making 50% a year for several years, and he says that he could easily do that today with $1 million. So a lot harder to do it with 120 billion. So it's really not about the amount you're starting with. It's about the strategy you're using that's going to continue to grow that pile over time. And that's what we want to teach you guys.
Is the strategy for investing the same with a smaller amount of money as it is for a larger one?
Okay, so when we start with a really small amount of money, I have to say that the strategy is actually pretty different. I'm gonna come off the storyline here a little bit and just tell you that it's actually pretty different when you're starting with a small amount of money. I mentioned that to our students that you should read a book by Manesh Prabrai. It's called The Dhando Investor, D-H-A-N-D-O. It's a book about how the Patel family built their hotel fortune. They own 40% of the hotels in America. And with one family member in America in the early 1960s, they started with like $10,000 and built that fortune. The key was that they knew they were starting with a small amount of money, that if they lost it, they could replace it. So here's my answer, that in general, our investing strategy is always the same, okay? It's always the same. But when we're starting with a small amount of money, we're going to be more aggressive, because if we lose it, we can always go back and work for 2 or 3 years and earn it back, right? I mean, if you lose $5,000, it's a lot easier to replace it than if you lose $5 million. So we're going to start with a small amount of money. We're going to do a little bit more aggressive investing. We're going to take a few chances that we might not have taken if we were working with a larger amount of money. So yeah, it's a little bit different. Remember, you guys, just like Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing, okay? So if you haven't seen any of my other videos about how to take control of your finances, get a grip on it, and then start investing and understanding the difference between investing and gambling or speculating, then take a look. So now, you guys, I'd love to hear from you. So answer this question down in the comments below. Have you ever held yourself back from beginning to invest because you were afraid, because of fear? I mean, fear of either losing money or not having enough money to make any real profit, so why bother? Fire away, put some comments down below, and I'll be sure to follow up with you. So you guys, if you enjoyed this video and you kind of feel it was valuable in teaching you more about investing, then subscribe to my channel and share the video with your friends or anybody else who might benefit from this information. We're out here to do a revolution and we need your help. And by the way, to learn more about how to start investing, just download my free Quick Start Guide. It's awesome, just by clicking the link on the screen or in the description. So thanks for watching, you guys. Now go play.